Okay, let me share the screen and then we're going to start today's session. So, okay, so this is the shared screen. I will mostly I will write on the screen and today's session is more about demonstration. So let me settle it up and move this chat screen out of the way. Okay, so before I start, the first point that we need to discuss is that from that we will build on our topic. First point is, let me get it. So, why do you think most of these studies nowadays are based on any form of regression? Anyone who can give us an idea? If you open the papers nowadays, most of them are any and maybe a simple regression or any advanced type of regression. Why do you think it's like this? Why we see too much of regression analysis? Anyone who want to give his view on it?
Sir, one could be that quantitative data analysis is required. Second is dependency of two variables, and third is a relationship.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So I will start from one example. Mr. Salman gave a close answer that most of them are quantitative, yes. But for a quantitative, we can make graphs, we can make charts, we can do correlation. There are other methods other than regression. The quantitative methods is not only based upon regression. There are many other quantitative techniques that are available which could have been used. Why regression? So I will start with one example and then we'll build on today's topic. So I will bring a topic on the screen. So you can see a table here. It talks about what methods why we use it, and what is the reason. So it usually depends upon two things: the dependent variable and the independent variable. Okay, so based upon the dependent variable, okay, so if we have a dependent variable changing from nominal to ordinal to ratio or interval. Okay, so you can see that we already know what is meant by nominal data and ordinal data and ratio data. So it's about level of information in the data. And similarly, we have independent variables from nominal to ordinal to ratio or interval. Okay, so if we are looking at a paper where both nominal variables are being compared, so it means the method that we will use is cross tabulation. We also and chi-square. So whenever we see a chi-square is used, so its full name its method name is ANOVA. Okay, so we use this method as a technique to compare two nominal variables. Okay, and then there is ordinal versus nominal, same chi-square, cross tabs, interval ratio. So independent variable, if it is dependent is nominal, independent is interval data, cross tabs, or logic probit. If dependent is ordinal, cross tabs, both are ordinal, Spearman correlation. Here you see the evolution of correlation. Why we do correlation? Do raise hand when you have a question during my explanation. I'm trying to give a background and then we'll build on to this topic. So if dependent is ordinal and interval ratio data, we can use an ordinal regression or correlation. If our independent variable is interval or ratio data and then independent variable is nominal, we use a t-test. It's a two sample t-test, or if there are the multiple nominal, then f-test. And then if it is an ordinal, we can use or f-test. And then if it is a correlation regression, we can use correlation regression is used when they both are interval. Okay. So this is the background. So there are two major reasons why. Let's go back to our notepad. So there are let's see, I will select a pen from here. There are two major reasons that explain the why we end up having regression analysis. Okay. So first reason was that our IV is a interval, or our DV is interval or ratio data. So because of this reason, the explanation in the variables has increased over time. Many studies have been able to measure or use a data which is in the interval or ratio type. Maybe they are able to make new indexes. They are able to make quantitative data using questionnaires, Likert scale, or maybe item-wise scale, which they convert items into a latent variable, which is a continuous interval ratio data. Because of that, we are able to see. And this is the first reason. Second reason is that we have increased number of IVs. Independent variables have increased. So initially, when the people used ANOVA, it was mostly like one variable or two variable. And now what will happen is that there are more variables available. That's why they use regression analysis. The other minor reasons are that is sample size and complications in the analysis, that they're trying to incorporate more complications. So if you have question here, you can ask now. So I have tried to give a background of why you often see regression analysis in common papers. The major reason is the nature of the data has evolved.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
Yes.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है पहला कि मेरे पास एक मॉडल है जिसमें मेरे पास जो डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल है बेसिकली वो नॉमिनल है, लेकिन बाकी जो है वो रेशियोज के है, मतलब ये है कि इंडेक्स के है। तो क्या हम यहाँ पे OLS या ARDL वगैरह रन कर सकते हैं? जैसे कि मैंने ARDL रन किया है, लेकिन जब मैंने पेपर एक प्रोफेसर को रिव्यू के लिए भेजा तो उसने कहा कि आप यहाँ पे जो ट्रेडिशनल इकोनोमेट्रिक्स अप्रोच है वो आप यूज़ नहीं कर सकते, लाइक ARDL उसने कहा कि आप यूज़ नहीं कर सकते।
First point is you said that your dependent variable is nominal. Is it a time series data?
यस सर।
So is it long enough, more than 30 time periods?
यस सर, 35 ईयर है।
Okay, so there are two stances. First of all, I have not seen any test that can check non-stationary nature of nominal data. Okay, so the books will say that since nominal data cannot be checked to be non-stationary, so we can assume it as a stationary data. Then you apply a simple logic to prove it. There are two ways to solve it. Both solutions I will cover in today's topic. So I will try to answer it in a relevant place. Okay. Is it okay for you? Both of the queries I will solve today.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is the first point, that mostly papers have regression analysis. Now we go for next part, Next part is let me write a equation here. You most all people know what is regression analysis. So I will write y is equal to intercept plus slope plus set of x variables plus error term. Okay, and let's assume that we can have any notation. So I will add dot here. It can be I, it can be t, it can be it. Okay, so it's a panel data or a time series data or cross-sectional data, it doesn't matter. Okay, so my question is, if you see this equation, what do you see here? Means what is the input and what is the output? What are the things that are in your control and what are not? Yes, anyone?
X
Sir,
is
the
Yes,
input and
outliers,
Y is
the error term.
yes. After sub, plus, please.
X is input variable while Y is output variable.
And so for you, this is just a input and output relation. So you think you see here x as an input and y as an output. You don't see any other input here.
Input in error term.
Error term is not an input, but yes, uh, partially correct. Yes, anyone else? Okay, let me start with different color and then we'll talk about it. Let me change a color here. I will take it as a red. Okay. So when I see this equation, how many things I see? First thing is type of y. What type of y I would get? So y can be nominal, it can be ordinal, it can be uh, continuous. Okay, it can be uh, some non-normal distribution like it's similar to ordinal, but there can be other forms. So I will write other. So one thing that I will look at in the regression is this: what type of y I am trying to get. So it will define the type of equation that you will use. Okay. Second thing is type of x, and third is number of x. How many are they and what type? If x are ordinal, I might use a dummy variable approach. If it's a continuous, it will become an IV. Okay. If there are many, then there might be interaction. And if it is non-linear, it will be quadratic. So need to see what kind of variable there are. So apparently this is set of numbers. It will give us, and we use this set of numbers. It will give us this set of numbers. So I will use the vanishing pen here. Let me, yeah. So based upon one of the response from the student, he says that we will give this set of numbers, it will give us this set of answer. We use this set of as a dependent variable. While running regression, we will get this number, and this set of numbers. But this is basic input. Next input that we need to know is type of y, type of x, and then and quantity of x. Okay, then we go beyond it. Then we see this is first input. Second input is let us go back. Second input is that what is fourth point is structure. Let me get the other pen. It's not, it's vanishing pen. So fourth is structure. That can be a time series or cross section or a panel data. That's also an input that I need to know before running a regression. And other thing is fifth one, method. Do I need to improve it, or do I have access to a new type of method? Okay, and method is also connected to assumptions. So it means I will do diagnostic test on OLS, and it will also help me to decide where to go. Anyone who have a question here, do raise hand. Is my explanation clear enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's move forward. So my topic today, discussion today, this 2 hour session has 4 objectives, or means four sections. So I will explain that there are 4 ways or 4 strategies that you can use to find a methodological gap. Okay, so let's talk about it one by one. So first major strategy that I use is unique variable or its transformation. First of all, the best way to find a methodological gap is you find a new variable which is recently available by some other institute, which has been converted into quantitative form by some paper in some other aspect, or maybe just introduced by somebody else, but no one has used it as in the set of other variables. So you can use that. So maybe a new index like competitiveness index, institution quality, maybe corruption index, maybe climate risk index, maybe any type of index. It's not necessarily that it is an index. It can be a new variable, like you have you have found a new way to measure corruption, and it's not an index based. It's based upon some GDP minus inflation minus tax ratio, any new type. Like you say that some people use to calculate, they use there's a 2 type of GDP available: GDP at a factor cost and GDP at market price. So the difference between these two is the shadow economy or the underground economy. So this is a new variable that somebody has proposed, and then underground economy. Okay, so or maybe it is illegal economy or underground economy or shadow economy or non-documented economy. So if you found this variable, you can pick it up and apply it in a paper in a different in a particular domain, and then you can advocate its gap. Yes, ask.
Sir, how we are going to know that this variable is new? Uh, Obviously, we have to read the literature, but when we are reading a paper, there are a lot of other papers which we are not reading or which we are not going to read. Then how come we say that the one variable which we have selected or which has gone through our observation is the new one? Is there any tool like Chat GPT or any other AI which can help us in this? Thank you, sir.
So one thing about it is that it depends upon your experience and vocabulary on
Right.
available data. So a person who has read multiple papers and has done work on a particular field, he would know what are the common variables that are being discussed and what is the debate that is going on. And if he has a vocabulary, means he keeps an eye on secondary data sources. When he will find a new variable, his intuition will automatically click that this variable is a new. How to confirm it? You will find less literature, or maybe you will find something that is opposite to what you were trying to find. Okay, for example, uh, in one of a paper that I tried was dependent variable was CO2 emissions, and my one of the IV was I no, it's opposite. Let me undo it. So dependent variable was crime rate. I was doing a paper on it. So I have studied enough paper to know that common variables are income, inflation, unemployment, and inequality, social development. These are common variables. So, but what I did, I added a variable of CO2 emissions. Technically, CO2 emission is an old variable, but it was new in this domain because I was not able to find a relation between these two in environmental economics papers. I opened up the psychology papers. So in the psychology domain, this variable was old. They said that when there is more greenery, people are more peaceful. They are less committed towards crime. So that was the reason. So technically, unique variable doesn't mean that it will be very old. Here the strategy that you it is proposing is that you have to become how to bring it back. Okay, you have to become a multidisciplinary person. You have to become a multidisciplinary person, means you first of all try to find a variable, and you should also know which domain the variable is from so that you can quote papers from that domain in trying to connect that independent variable, or maybe the unique variable can be a dependent variable also, to your theory. Okay. If you have any question here, do let me know. Otherwise, I will try to give more examples here and then I will move forward. Any question?
Sir, can we use a technique like Sci Hub or वो एक और था Illicit? So they have a tab which gives us the number of variables which are listed in a paper.
Yes.
So if we can shortlist them and then observe by our experience or by the instruction of the senior that which one is the new
That
one.
that
And is
that
there any
strategy
website?
that strategy can only give you what Sci-Hub knows, but it's more about theory. So
Right, right.
only this strategy is only successful if you are applying the unique variable in a domain in which you have already have worked for some time. Means you already know the base domain so that you can try to explain a unique variable. If you are using a unique variable in a unique domain, both are new for you, then it is very difficult to know how to tell. So, the example is a person who is writing a research paper for the first time, or a person who is learning research by practice. For him, every variable is unique, every domain is unique. So, for him, it will be very challenging to understand what to do and how to do. Got the point?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
So
sir.
technically for the base domain, you have to study books. You should have done a extensive article reading, extensive knowledge study so that you can explain. You can explain the variable. Okay. It's okay now.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, it means that whenever we are doing a we are trying to find the research gap, we should make our a list of articles in which we should know about the variables, their types, their structure, and things like that. And we should note down each point relating to that model, which is used in every research article. But sir, here I would like to share one thing that I was told that whenever you are using a variable, you must provide a reference from the literature also that why you are using it. So if we use something new like some variable, for example, um, in inflation rate is used. So there are like CPI, we have CPI, we have GDP deflator, and things like that. But for example, if I am using the panel data, but I am interested in the cost of living, a comparison of cost of living, and I am using the CPI instead of deflator. uh, I'm just giving an example. And for example, none of the studies has ever used it. Then how would I justify it?
So the way that you can use is that let's say your variable is that you are trying to use is x, and you are trying to relate it to y, and you are not able to find any reference directly that x explains y. So the strategy that I use is that x may explain some phenomenon, and that phenomenon is related to y, means that you already said that you used CPI as a cost of living, and cost of living is related to your dependent variable, but nobody has used CPI as a independent variable with y. Okay, so the strategy is, first of all, you write one paragraph on phenomenon's role on y, how this phenomenon is important in explaining y. So you will say cost of living has a role on your any variable that you use y, and then this is your first paragraph. You add all the relevant papers that have used this word or this phenomena, and then in the second paragraph you explain that the studies that have said that x is cost of living. Okay, and by chain rule, so x is equal to a is equal to b and b is equal to c, so a is equal to c. So this way you will then create your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is that x is causing y. So this way what I usually do is that first of all I explain that the phenomena is important and how phenomena theoretically explains my dependent variable, and then mention how my proposed variable is a part of that phenomena. Maybe it's the same study that I can use in the first paragraph and the second paragraph. Both can be same studies, but it can be also different. And then I will say that based upon this, my study is hypothesizing that X is causing Y. So this way I have created a hypothesis. So I call it a chain rule. So I have made a chain. Sometimes the chain is more tricky. There is more in between relationships than only these two. For example, uh, I can give another example that in one of my paper, what I did, my DV was income inequality, and my IV was education and education scale. So the reviewer comment said that how do you theoretically connect them? There were no papers that connected the nonlinear effect of education on income inequality. So what I did, first of all, I connected education with growth through we already know the endogenous growth theory, or any there are many theories available, and then I connected growth with income inequality through Kuznets curve, and Kuznets curve also said that it is non-linear, means education growth will first create income inequality, and then it will reduce it later on. So based upon these three lines, these two lines and technically three theories, I was able to connect my education and education scale with income inequality. Clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. So since the first session is going to be closed, I will give one more example before we move into the meeting will close and we'll open it again. We'll go open it after a break. So let me talk about another example. The unique variable here can be its transformation. Maybe it's not a unique, but you added a square form. So make it a non-linear. So it's not about adding a new variable. It can be a non-linear form. Just like this example, I added a square. Nowadays, this square form is another example, but in this example, form means, let me bring it up. So I will explain this form after this break. So the meeting is going to be closed. Thank you. Okay, I will start now. So the first part I have discussed the unique variable. Now I will talk about the transformation. So in the transformation, I need to discuss that there are many transformations that are commonly used in literature and which are available. And I will give you a few examples, like the transformations you can use is, like, you can make it a log form, you can make it a growth rate, or you can make it a asymmetric form, or if it is a time series data, you can separate it into cyclic form. You can convert it into a random form, random movement form, or unexpected form, or you can convert it into a trend form. So there are many other forms that you can use. So each have its own meaning. So for asymmetric, it means theoretically its increase and decrease has a different meaning. Growth rate means you are trying to only focus on the rate at which it is growing. Log is also mostly connected to growth rate, but it can be used for many other reasons. Cyclic form is used when you need to connect it to business cycle. Random form when you are trying to measure the unexpected change in the variable. Trend form, yeah, when you're trying to pick up the trajectory at which it is growing. Then there is first difference form, and there is D mean form, and there are many more. So these are the transformations that you can apply uh, in this example. Okay, so if you have any questions here, you can ask.
Sir, how we can check the relevance of theory with reference to these transformations?
So each transformation, if your transformed variable is an independent variable, then the theory can be found from other literature where that transformation has already been used, maybe with some other variable. So, for example, somebody has used to the random portion of money supply to check the monetary policy uncertainty effect on inflation. So from that paper, you understood that if we create a random portion of a variable that is which is an independent variable, then that independent variable will measure uncertainty. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then you use that argument on some other variable. Say this that when we create the random transformation, it measures the uncertainty of that variable. So my this variable I also wanted to check the uncertainty portion. So when you say uncertainty, it means theoretically you are saying that it will be opposite to rational expectations. That rational expectations are only applied when expected events are occurring. And when there's unexpected event occurring, then it will not be rational expectation. So this way, in this example, I picked up the transformation from some other variable for my variable. But if it is a dependent variable, then the strategy will be different. Then you have to look at the reason of why you are. So when you're applying with a dependent variable, it means you are trying to create, you're trying to check a certain form of a theory. So it means you need to go more in detail on why you look at this only portion, why not whole variable. Yes, Mr. Salman.
So, sir, it means that the transformation which we are going to do, or the methodological gap which we are trying to find, that is directly related to the to our objective of study.
Yes. So when
And
you
sir,
are
when we are
technically when you are proposing a gap, it should be a part of your objective. Otherwise, there's no importance of that gap. You should not do it anyways. So whenever we propose a gap, we are doing it so that our objective becomes unique, which is different from other
so, sir,
people.
is it possible? Is
Yes.
it possible that initially we do not have the idea that what kind of transformation we are going to have, and we have the variable in raw form in our mind? We set the objective, and later on, after conducting the review, we found out that this transformation or this technique can be applied to better assess our objective.
So this method can only be applied if if you are doing a thesis, then your supervisor should know that what are your plans, so that he knows that even though the proposal is not very strong right now, but your plans are this. Or maybe he is telling you that do this later on. He already knows what can be done. If it is a research paper, then everyone will only know when you have already done it. It's because you will not show the proposal to anyone. The best way, if you it's not a PhD thesis, if it's a research work, the best way is that I understood was that either make a raw version where you don't know what transformation you can apply, try it in a conference, look what responses you get, any useful response. Other way that I have done in my start was that I applied it on non-HEC recognized journals. I wrote a paper on a background. I knew that it will not be published in good journals because I don't know how to publish, and nobody was guiding because everyone was thinking that this idea is not good enough. What I did, I published it in a non-recognized journal because I can afford it at start of my career, and then I worked on its advanced version to justify the literature community that it was possible. Okay, so nowadays most of people start their research at a stage when they cannot afford a non-recognized publication because they don't have time, and they already have a pressure on them that they have to do publish quickly. So that's why I cannot suggest you to start with non-recognized journal, but you can start with local Y category journals where the idea is more experimental and you think that and you don't have much support available with you. Got the point?
Right, sir, right.
Okay. Now I will give you a few more examples, then we'll move forward to second point. So other than this, there are many other forms of transformations that can be many people have used Fourier series, dummy variables for any unknown event or structural break, and then like COVID, and then they can use dummy variable with interaction, and then there are other types can be I don't remember right now, but these are technically not your independent variables, but they are there, which are actually changing the way your independent variable will behave. But their inclusion mostly depends upon diagnostics. So technically, they are used when you are not able to control heterogeneity. So, so logically, heterogeneity means that the regression line that you have plotted is not passing through the ideal center of the dots. So dots are scattered too far, or the line is not actually in the middle, it's on the one side. So you try to add some unique or transformation variables that improves the line. So this sometimes can become a gap. For example, people use Fourier series in data which is cyclic, means data which is highly dependent to business cycle. So what they do, they add Fourier series to control the business cycle so that the model becomes stable. So this is one way that you can create a gap. Any question here, or should I move forward to the second point? Is there anyone? Okay, so let me move forward to the second point. So second point that let me get the mic here. Second point that I usually pick up is the interaction of variables. How variables interact with each other. It includes it includes uh, index making, means you have more than uh, two variables of similar type. You use factor analysis to make an index. So that is uh, making a new variable. Other can be mediator variables. DIAT
So
mediator.
by interaction of variables, you mean they have multicollinearity?
Yeah. So the major motivation behind this strategy is that if there is any multicollinearity, okay. But the third type is the square form. Uh-oh. So square form. So it can be multicollinearity or misspecification. Okay. So these are two major source of problems. So you can make an index. It's mostly done when you have many independent variables available and few of them are similar type, and there's highly likelihood that there will be a multicollinearity to make an index. Okay, now another type of gap that can be created is to make index with a unique method. So you can use, I will discuss it in the third type, but I will give you brief. There is a PFA method. PFA method. Some people use the entropy method. Then there is a min-max method, and then somebody also use mean. They just take a mean of the variables. So there are several methods that can be used. There are other than these available. So this is just the names that I remember right now. There are many other methods that people use to make index. Okay, so it will be a gap that nobody have. So if you make an index, how you will tell it as a gap? You will say that, let's say somebody has used one variable for some phenomena, you have used 10 variables, but you transform it into an index. So you use 10 variables to measure something, but other paper has used one. So you will say your idea is holistic. Means you have more dimensions. Holistic. So that word will be used in your objective, that our study has used holistic dimension of climate change on my dependent variable. So this way you justify this index making as a gap. Okay. So is there any question here or should I move forward? Anyone? So next is mediator. So when mediator comes, it's mostly misspecification, and the square is also misspecification. But it should also be theory driven. So I will share an article right now that explains if you want to let's say if you want to theoretically explain your mediator or a scale variable, how you will do it. So I will open an article here and I will explain. Yeah. So this is a paper. Let me get it full screen. How to get it full screen? Okay. So this is a paper that you should study. You can note down its name. It's published in a very good journal, Strategic Management Journal. It has explained how to theoretically explain a nonlinear relation between variables, and it can be square form. So it has explained three types. First is square variable, how to explain the U shape or inverted U shape. Secondly, it explained the and how to justify. And then second part, it explained how a moderator and a square variable together can work. So it is explained here. And the third form, it explained that when you have a moderator and a scale variable, there can be a flipping in the relationship. It can flip from U shape to inverted U shape. So it has explained the third type. Fourth type, it explained this is same flipping. Fourth is how to add how to check for instrumental variables when you have a square variable. So you should study this article. It will help you to explain the part that I'm talking about here. Okay, so I will share this with you in the group. If you have any questions here, you can ask. Otherwise, I will move forward. So the last part here is actually the mediator. You can use mediator, some dummy as a mediator also. So mediator dummy or continuous dummy, and then there is a square mediator that the article has shown. So these are the aspects that you can use to add a methodological gap in the study. If you have any query now, please raise hand.
Sir, I have a question.
Please ask again.
Sir, does interaction term or square make a model to a linear model to non-linear? So
Yes.
how to maintain the linearity of the model in these conditions?
Okay. So your question is that you think that when you add a square variable, it makes a model a non-linear model.
Yes, sir.
And OLS says that the model should be linear. Yes? Is this the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will give you answer. So there are two types of non-linearity. Okay. First is, let me go up. First is non-linearity in terms of variables. Second is non-linearity in terms of coefficients. So the assumption of linearity that Gujarati talks about is non-linearity in terms of coefficients. So even if I add a square variable by adding a theta x square, the model is still linear in terms of coefficients because my coefficients still have power 1. But it is non-linear in terms of variables. So according to OLS, model can be non-linear with respect to variables, but it should be linear with respect to coefficients. Did you get the answer?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Miss Hidra, you can ask.
Sir, I have two questions. First of all, I would request sir to kindly give some example of dummy as a mediator. And secondly, sir, again, I feel really difficult to find out the suitable transformation. Like if we use min-max method, it can actually exaggerate the value of outliers if they exist in our data set. So how we can find out the pros and cons and suitability of a transformation also with the reference to our data sets, the qualities of our data set.
So we are in this section. So the first comment is the transformation. There can be many types of transformation. That's why some studies do the robustness test. What they do, they use multiple transformations and then see how the results change. And some transformations they show, some they don't show. So this is mostly experience that which transformation has what problem. So maybe if I use the min-max, it exaggerates the outliers. So what I will do, I will Windsorize the variable first so that I can remove the outliers and then use the min-max maybe. Or if outliers are still there, I will use a quantile regression which is robust to outliers, or otherwise I will not use the min max, I will use the some other method. But if I don't know what I will use, I will make 2 or 3 transformations that literature says and apply all of them, use one of them as a main and others as a robustness in the appendix. Next, you said about the moderator as a dummy. There are many examples. The moderator model, the person who proposed the moderator model was he started with dummy variable as a moderator. If you study the book of Hayes, it's Hayes. I will see if I can find the book. He has explained the concept of mediator and moderators in statistics. So he started with dummy variables. So for example, I can talk about maybe it's a questionnaire data. So my saving or my consumption, Y depends upon my income. And the dummy variable that I have is the respondent is rich or poor. So it's a dummy variable. So theory says that when the income of a rich increase, his consumption falls because he has already fulfilled his necessities. But if the income of the poor increase, his income consumption increase. So when we make a graph, if income is here and consumption is here, for a poor, it's like this, for a rich, it's like this. So, so by moderator, we usually use a moderator, a mediator, or a moderator. Technically, I was explaining a moderator here, not a mediator. I mistakenly wrote the word, it's a mediator. Okay, so when you use a mediator, it means there are two relationships. And then, so you explain, so how it will solve the multi-quantity, because the dots were scattered so much. Now you have two lines to explain the dots. So lines have more ability to cover up spread dots. So there's high likelihood that it will reduce the multicollinearity. And the mediator, I will cover it up in the next part. Okay, I think I have answered partially because you have asked about the mediator. Unfortunately, it was about moderator. Sorry for that. And I will cover the mediator in the next part.
Okay, sir.
Any question from this part? No? Okay, so let me move forward. So the third strategy that I use is, it is the structure. Sometimes some variables are not possible to be used in a specific structure. For example, I have a data of culture. Hofstad has created a culture index, which is a constant value for each country. So it means you cannot apply this variable in a time series data. But if you want to do a time series research, but you want to also use the culture, so what I will do, I will go towards panel data, in which the culture will used as a time invariant variable. Okay, so I will say that, and it will become a long panel, means other variables are time series and it is long enough. So I'll apply a non-stationary panel data model, and in that culture variable is there. So it means I can express or study the effect of culture across in a time series data across time. Okay, so but it's not a perfect method, but this is a way structure is done. Other way around is that so the structure I explained with one example. Other example can be that you, for example, when the COVID was here, everyone was trying to make a paper, but the data was very small. What they did, it was a time series data, but very few time periods. So what they did, they make it a panel data or make it a cross-section data to see the effects. So even though COVID was a time series property, but in 2000 year 2001, every teacher was saying that explore the role of COVID on macroeconomy. The answer was the macroeconomics data is annual and COVID is daily data. How we can address it? The problem was that for only 1 year, the effect was not prominent. So what was the strategy? Make it a cross-section data or make it a panel data. This way you apply a dummy variable for COVID or maybe a continuous form of number of people dead from COVID on a panel data across the world. This way you create a gap by studying a variable which was technically not available or not being discussed in that domain. For example, let me give you another example. In my thesis, what I did, I got the data for financial statements of Islamic banks, in which I got the data of Musharka financing. But there are two types of research available in literature. One was Musharka supply, in which people studied what are the contractual agreements banks do to supply Musharka, And there are other papers that was about Musharka demand, in which people try to understand and the survey-based analysis, who are the people who demand Musharka. What I did, I applied the simultaneous equation method. And in economics, we know that in equilibrium, demand and supply are equal. So my demand is Musharka demand and Musharka supply. I made two models and I added price of Musharka as IV, price of Musharka as IV in both models. According to demand and supply model, it will be negative relation here and positive here, and then I've added control variables. The problem was some of the control variables were bank related, some of them were non-bank related. So if I only study Pakistan, the problem was that some of the variables will not be useful or they might not work. So what I did, I had to make it a panel data. So for that, I got the data of Islamic banks from whole of the world. This way, there were some variables in both models that became useful, and the model started to work. I hope you understood the example. So if you have any question, you can ask now. Any question?
Yes, sir.
जी पूछें.
Sir, I have two data set. One is the survey data and second one is the daily based data. So I can match both the type of data.
Okay, let me try to answer this. So first problem with this is that one is survey data and other is the
Daily based data.
Daily based. So it's a time series data. Similar comment is in the comments that can there be a panel data for 1 year in yearly data and other is in or it can a panel data for 1 year in terms of yearly data. So if there is only 1 year, it will not be a panel data. At least 2 years must be there. So I answered the question in the comment. For your case, you are saying that how can we do it? So I will try to write an example here. So your example is that your model is y is a function of x, and these are all based upon survey. So what is the region? Can you give example?
Yes, sir. 66 countries.
So it's a survey data. So it's a secondary data or primary data?
No, sir. Basically, this is the survey data. I have taken all the data set from the DHA survey, and totally 66 countries and 160 surveys.
Okay, so this is the survey data, and you have another variable Z, which is a daily data. So is it available for the year in which the survey has been done?
Basically,
Can you repeat it again? It's not clear.
sir, clear this.
Available. So there are two ways. I will give you an example. For example, I am surveying several districts of Pakistan related to their behaviors, consumption pattern, or the change in their consumption behavior over time. So this is the consumption patterns and poverty and income inequality. I'm surveying it. I wanted to see the effect of climate change on their behavior, but the data is of climate change is time series, and this is cross-sectional. But I know that I am surveying in 2024, and I have the time series data for 2024 available for all days. Means it's a daily data or weekly data or monthly data for whole year, and I'm surveying this region. So and also have so so it can be done many ways. If it's I don't have sub regional data, like I'm surveying districts of Pakistan, but the time series data is only for Pakistan, not for district of Pakistan. Then I can have the mean of Z as one variable and the standard deviation of Z as, so I can use these two variables in my model. So I will say that how the mean of Z affects Y. But ideally, it should be mean of Z in each district and standard deviation of Z in each district. So this will show the persistent effect, and this is the deviation effect. So this way you can add time series data on your cross-section data. The only requirement is that your time series data should be available for the whole year within which the survey has been done. And ideally, it should be available for all the regions, sub-regions in which the survey has been done. Yes, any question here? Is it clear? Is it clear for you, Akhtar?
Yes, sir. Sir, basically, my second question related with the same. Some sorry, some survey basically like 2017. Maybe 8 or 9 survey for 2019 and 2016 and 2021st. So mostly data based on a survey database and conducted for this year. So how to handle this type of data, sir?
So you make sure that you in the Excel file you only use those time series data which is available. For example, for few districts the survey data is from 2019. Then I will use the time series data of 2019. If for other district the data is from 2020, I will use the time series data of 2020. I will match the survey year with the time series year.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Is it clear? Okay, so this is one way to integrate the time series data, and the other issue can be that maybe this is your annual data and this is your daily data, and then you wanted to add. So then the same method you can use. So you take an average and standard deviation. You can only use average also. You can only use standard deviation also if the theory requires, or you can make a z value. Let me pick it up. So you can apply a z value. Let me get a pen. Okay, welcome back. So I will continue with the discussion that you can add a third variable, mean or standard deviation, or its z value, which is equal to mean over standard deviation of that variable. So you can use that also. So one very example of this is I can use is that in one of my paper I wanted to add stability of bank profits as an independent variable. So what I did, I calculated the 2-time period mean and 2-time periods or 3-time period standard deviation of the profit of banks, and then I calculated the z value. So bigger the z value, more stable the profit is. So I use this as a variable. So I hope you understand the structure, and I will now give two more examples of structure, then we will move forward. Okay, other example of structure is that you studied, first of all, you studied that you can easily go towards panel data to solve problems. Second example, you studied how to add the time series data into a cross-section data. In the first example, in the panel data, you studied how to move the cross-section data into a time series data through panel. Second form is that I usually use is called, you can use the spatial or remote sensing transformations. So in the spatial transformation, what you can do is you can go in the panel data and allow for the spillover effects of neighboring countries. Okay, so there are many models that you can use. We can discuss it some other time in detail. The most common model is SAR, spatial autoregressive model, in which the independent variable is the effect of neighboring countries' dependent variable on the current variable. So y will be equal to beta y I minus 1, comma, plus theta x plus error term. So this variable is t, not t minus 1, it is I minus 1, means the neighboring countries' independent variable effect on the dependent variable. So this is called spatial autoregressive. So this is a spill over effect that people use to apply in the model. So if your theory is highly dependent upon trade or spillover effects like climate change, cross-border behaviors, then you should go towards spatial effects. This will help you to control for the cross-section dependence in the data. Plus, this transformation of the variable within the panel data can help you to add another gap. Then there's remote sensing. Remote sensing means if you somebody who has already studied geography, they know that the Google Earth can give you a data of satellite imagery, and based upon the satellite imagery you can measure new data set of how the countries based upon the colors of a country, like how much water is there, how much land is there, how much snow is there, and you can use that data. Some studies have already tried to calculate the regional growth rate by looking at how much lights were on in the country during night. So more lights mean more urbanization and more growth and more development in the region. So, and for the spillover effect, so like for example, nowadays there's a debate that the smoke in Lahore is because of the crop burning in India, and same way they are saying it's because of crop burning in Pakistan. So it's a spillover effect. So both countries are facing a problem of smoke because of their behaviors. Similarly, government of Pakistan said that we are victim of climate change because we are not, our share of pollution is less than 1%, but the cost of or the damage from the climate change is very big. So how to solve it? So that's a spillover effect. And then if your theory is from international trade, so if Pakistan and America are highly trading with each other, and if there is a financial crisis in America because of high share of trade, it will lead to effect on Pakistan. So for the case of econometric treatment, I told you that you have to study spatial econometrics. There are few videos available in my channel, but we will focus on that detail because it's a huge domain. There are 7 or 8 basic models, and then there are advanced models that people use to study spatial effects. And I think this is the third type. If you have any question in this type, let me know. Otherwise, I will move towards the last type. Yeah, I wrote I minus 1 means that when you make a panel data, you will have like 10 countries. So the I minus 1 will, it is made by the method itself. So method knows when the y is there. So your dependent variable is yi, and so it will make a matrix of beta in a way that when I is there, then I minus 1 should be there. So that transformation, we call it the spatial weight matrix. So in that econometrics, we teach how to make that matrix. And in future, we will hopefully cover that. Yes, Ms. Sidra.
Sir, my question is that you talked about generating new data sets like from satellite images. Like the example that you gave was about the satellite data of lighting to measure growth. But
Yes.
sir, how do we justify that kind of data set when it's available in real terms? Like we can calculate the growth rate in real terms, then why would we go to
No, no.
the satellite images?
So this data will be used when the real-time growth data is not there. For example, I was doing research on Gilgit-Baltistan, and I don't have data for GDP growth of each district of Gilgit-Baltistan. So what I did, I used the lighting data to create a proxy of how much development is there within each district, and I use that as an indicator for urbanization in each district. So or growth in each district. And there is a paper somebody has. So even if the growth data is there, but the growth data is annual and the lighting data is daily, so you can use the lighting data to transform the annual growth data to daily growth data. So there is a one PhD thesis paper that I've seen. He used the satellite data of lighting to transform annual GDP data of one country to a daily GDP data. So this way he has created a new data set using existing data set. Got the point?
Yes, sir, I got it.
So this is a strategy that, so in order to be good in this, then you should meet some geography person who are good in remote sensing. And if you want to do spatial analysis, then you have to study spatial econometrics. So to try to make such models. Okay, I think
Sir,
yes.
sir, I would request you to kindly share some research articles or some reference books to study about spatial analysis, because my work is actually related to this kind of studies, but I'm not going into this dimension because I am not good in this area.
Let me share you one example, but I will share in the group or you contact me. I will, because I have not worked that much in this domain, but I have made one paper. Let me open it up if I can find, and I will discuss it here. Otherwise, and we'll move forward. Let me find an example. Yeah. So let me open it up. So this is one of the paper. Let me get it full screen. So this was published recently, last year at the end, in a good journal. So it means it has some sort of reputation that it was acceptable. So this paper has used several transformation in methodology to fill up the methodology. So I will show you one by one. First thing I used was that I applied a new type of factor analysis in the panel data. So you know the panel data, the factor analysis is give you one index. So what I did in the panel data, I applied factor analysis country-wise. So it gave me country-wise KMOs and country-wise Bartlett and then country-wide factor loading. And then I added them together to make one index. And then I compared it with standard index data that this is my index, red one, and this is the standard factor analysis. So I noted that there is not that steep deviation other than few countries like Hong Kong and then the UAE. Other one, the box plots were very near to each other. There were very few deviations. So this is first gap that I talked about the index. Second gap is shown here. See, dependent variable is EPI. Independent variable is W multiplied by EPI JT. Means I is not equal to here, I here. It means, and this W will let me make it this variable. So this will is a SAR variable, spatial autoregressive. And how to make it? So you have to open Geoda and then create a matrix multiplication. And I have made a video on this one also. So usually this method is applied when your region, the countries are neighbor to each other. So I applied on OBOR countries. Most of them are neighboring to each other. You cannot apply it on the whole world because it will be very complicated. So everyone who has done work on this spatial econometrics, they usually pick up a smaller region which is connected to each other so that there is a spillover effect measurable. Okay, so and then I use the map to show the colors. So this is another way to highlight your methodology. Whenever you make a new index or you collect a new data, if it is a panel data, you present it on the global map. so that the people can see the deviations or nature of the data. They can also validate, yeah, Pakistan has low API. I can understand that why it is low because I am from Pakistan. So this way there is a subjective validity for the data. For example, one student made a new index showing how much height the country has in terms of from the sea level. And in that, Pakistan was not on the second because K2 is the second highest. And then I said, your index is wrong because technically Pakistan should be first, second, third, maybe because the highest point is in Nepal and second is in Pakistan. So according to my expertise, my intuition, it should be here. So when you make a map, it gives you a subjective in validity of the data. Okay, so this was the point here. Hope you got the answer.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to go in detail, you need to study spatial econometrics. Most of the people apply it on cross-section data, and for panel data, ideally your data should be balanced panel. Otherwise, you have to handle the data appropriately. There's a video available in my channel about how to make this SAR variable in a panel data. And then I've shown you this paper where it is talked about how to interpret it. And then this the map, it's made in Geoda software. The video is available related to how to make it in Geoda. Okay, now hope it is fine. Next, I go towards the fourth type, which is most commonly known by people is the estimation method. So I will start with the comment given by one of the student in the start that my dependent variable is binomial, but it is time series data, and he applied the ARDL, but his teacher said that it's not possible. So there are two strategies. First is the assumption based. Assumption based is that you apply the L applies the what was the model? So you apply the OLS method. So people have used dependent variable as a binomial in the OLS regression, and then and so you can, based upon that logic, you say that since my variables are non-stationary, you apply RDL. So it is called limited. I forgot the name. The case where OLS is applied on logit instead of logit and probit, and even the dependent variable is binomial because according to central limit theorem, if the sample is large enough, the binomial distribution becomes normal. So you can apply. This is assumption based. Second method that you can use is, which is in this part, that you use ECM method in logit regression. What you can do is you apply the logit regression the way logit is applied, and you apply and calculate the your dummy variable as dv and then ivs. So this will be your model, and then you generate the error term. You check error term is stationary or not. If the error term is stationary, using the time series co-integration test, if it is your time series data, then it means this is the long run relation. And then you apply the short run relation. How you apply short run relation? You calculate the first difference of dv, which will be same as the actual because it's binomial, and then apply first difference of ivs, and then add the lag of error term, which is this, its lag value, and its coefficient should be negative and significant. So this will be convergence coefficient, and this will become ECM, and this part is also called the short run S or short run. So this way you apply time series model. So this is one example that is covered in this part, that you should know if your variables are non-stationary how to make ECM, so error correction model. So you should understand the concept of, so this is a way to handle non-stationary variables in time series data and panel data. Okay. And then there's another there are several concepts. So ECM, and then there's a model which is called MIDAS. This is another method where if your dependent variable is annual and your IVs are quarterly or monthly, you can relate them directly using MIDAS. So first major tool that you need to understand is ECM. Second is MIDAS. And the third important concept, that there are two more. The third concept is that you need to know the GMM, means how to handle the endogenous variable. Fourth is the simultaneous equation model method. So if you know these four strategies, then you can apply many models. So for example, if your dependent is binomial, you apply logit. If your dependent is discrete, you apply ridge regression, apply Python. If your independent variables are highly collinear, but you don't want to drop it, you apply ridge regression. If your independent and dependent are mixed on frequency, you apply MIDAS. If there's endogeneity, GMM. If there's simultaneity, you use SEM, mostly applied in questionnaire data, but it can be applied in secondary. If and these are some. So it means this side is mostly based upon axiomatic, means your regression diagnostic says that this is a problem, and then you follow the assumptions to apply to use appropriate estimation model. Okay, so if you have any questions here, do let me know. Otherwise, I will add another last part, and then I will move towards conclusion. If you have any questions here, do ask. So, estimation method, there are many flowcharts available online that what kind of data what kind of method should be used. For it, you need to have experience. You should be learning from some econometrician when model should be used, and then see the papers that have used the new model, study why they have used it. So you should know for each new model when and why it should be used, so that you can apply it appropriately whenever you want to. Okay, so this is the way you handle it. So in this example, that the paper I showed, I applied several gaps. So this equation is quantile regression method. Okay, and so and this also has a new way of measuring index. It also has a moderator. It also has a spatial econometric. So why this paper was published? So I have found four ways to find a gap. Firstly, a new way to find index, a moderator, a transformation, and this transformation was never applied in ARDL framework. And then it's also a quantile regression. So I used a robust regression. So that's why it was able to publish, because I applied multiple strategies to handle the problem. So that was the next part, is making a hybrid model. So if you know how to make a hybrid model, applying any 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the above strategies within one model, it will become a hybrid model. So this way you will be able to make it a strong model. I will give you one more example, then I will open the floor for questions. So there's a question on when we use quantile and quantile regression. So quantile and quantile is a type of regression where on both sides independent are in quantiles. So usually it is not easy to apply it on more than one independent variable, because you will have too many variations. So I have only seen it in a model where there is one independent and one dependent. So if you want to apply content quantile, then you can only have one independent variable. If you want to have more than one, then there will be too many graphs to explain. And the other problem with this model is that it's very difficult to interpret. So I hopefully it depends what kind of nature. So, and secondly, if you want good results, it should be, I think, high frequency data. It's not applicable on a panel data because the coefficients will not change across countries. If you want to make a cross panel data, you have to do some deviation, some modifications in the model. Then it will become a panel data. Otherwise, the standard quantile and quantile model available is on simple cross-sectional large data. I hope I give you the answer. Any other question? I'm opening a last paper as an example, and then I will open the floor for questioning. So this is another paper that I did recently. It's published in start of this year. There is another gap that I added as compared to previous paper. There were 4 gaps. In this paper, there is one more. That is that I have added a square. And then there is one more that was I've added the cross-sectional average as independent variable to make it a second generation panel data model, because this model data has the cross-section dependence. So I solved it by, so there is a second generation panel ARDL model available, but it cannot be applied when the variables are non-normal. So I made my quantile regression model, second generation quantile regression model, by adding cross-section averages as independent variable. It absorbed the cross-section dependence and it became a second generation panel data model. So this way it's a hybrid model. And so cross-section dependence test is here. So these are the tests, and I have interpreted all the variables, these cross-section averages and level variables. So, and then plotted the quantile regression, and then this is country-wise error correction coefficient presented. So only few countries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which were not converging, but others were converging in the Asia. So I hope you understood what is the idea behind this presentation, that you know that there are 4 major ingredients in the model. So if you can change at least one, you can create a gap. But if you are targeting a very high level journal which want rigorous econometrics, what you can do is apply more than one type of ingredient. So in the circle diagram, how did we create a circle? So there is a comment that in this paper, how I created a circle. So this is a spider plot. So there's one data which is the blue line, and I added 3 data sets. One was 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, so it's a circle, and then there's a blue data, and then there's a data of -1, which is this black. So there were 3 data sets that I plotted in this graph. That's why you see a circle. Okay, I think it's clear now. So this was today's presentation. So we probably have around 15 minutes. So its floor is open for you if you want to ask. It's not made in Stata, I made it in Excel. So there is a library available in Stata to make the spider plot, but I don't like that one. I either use R or I use Excel. Yes, Ms. Sidra, you can ask.
Sir, from all the examples that you have given in this presentation, and you have extensively talked about various examples. And sir, one thing that I wanted to ask was, like, whenever you give any example, you basically start from relations, from a particular relation. Like you talked about that you wanted to check stability of one variable, and then you established a relationship, and then but when we as student try to find out the gap, or we try to find out relations, we actually see see it with the approach of studying the literature and then checking out that which relations have been checked or researched or which are not, and probably our technique is not good. So I just wanted to ask that when we are going to start research in any domain, so what should be the right approach? Should we go towards all the theories that encircle those domains, and then from those theories we should first is try to establish certain links and then go towards the literature to find out then the right variables and then the
Okay.
transformations and etc.
Yeah.
I hope
So,
I could
okay, I will explain it. So, the standard way of doing research is that you go through the literature in detail, find the find the problem statement, and then make your objectives, question, and then find the data and then methodology. The problem with this method is for the case of developing countries or for the case of inexperience of the students, sometimes the problem that you find, you are not able to find the data. Or maybe because of the financial issues, you don't have enough finances or not have enough time to get the data. So it's not possible to do that research. So other way around is it should be guided approach. Either the supervisor should make sure that it should limit you within a specific domain in which the data or your skills are useful or your financial constraints are not problem. Otherwise, what will happen is you will find something that th- that's actually a problem, but you cannot solve it because of the financial constraints. So the other way that I use is that I explore the literature, but don't write. I put it in my head, and with the literature, I start making my theoretical model diagram, and then also with the diagram, find the variables. If at a particular point, I think that the variables that I found, the diagram that I made, it has like 10 or 20% of theoretical importance available. The remaining part I added through the econometrics or the methodology to make it 100. Because if it's a PhD thesis, then I can understand that you need to be more theoretically strong. But for a research paper, in pure sciences, if they develop one dot, they make a paper. So it means you can make multiple papers by going in detail, but you should know where to stop. So how to decide where to stop is when you feel that you have enough gap to make you motivated to write on it. You should make a paper, and even if it's not publishable, it will still give you a confidence that you know now you have completed one project, even if it is not published. You can go on a conference, give a feedback, and then build it on again. So my model is that multiple low quality papers can give you a writing experience, then you build on it good quality rather than you start with saying that I will write only one paper, but it will be a good quality. You are not Aristotle. You are not born with that abilities of what Aristotle had. So you should uh, think on that I should start with something that I can control. I hope I got to give you answer. And the rest part is that it's your team that you try to find good people who know something that you don't know, so that everything that every time you do something, you are learning. Then you will be improving your work, and I think it's like 2 to 3 years after which you become rather than an experimenter, then become a doer. And in your first one few years, you will do experiments. You will take risk by trying to apply a new transformation, and sometimes it will not publish because nobody likes it. But in 3 years, you will know what to do and what not to do, and how to do and when to do. I think I gave you a appropriate answer. Anyone else? Please ask. We have around 6 minutes. So another question is the way you have such a detailed reasoning and dots linked to all the variables in the examples. So how do we learn it and how should we channel? So for that, first of all, you should be very good in measurement, mean very good in maths and stats. And on the other side, you should have strong analogy, mean the subject knowledge, and then you mix it up. And other is you should have a good mentor that can tell you the details of a theory and new theories. Okay. So you sometimes it's a good help. The mentor will help you, and the other thing is that it's the intuition and how you pick it up quickly from the articles. Okay. And anyone else? Anyone else you can ask now, so before we close.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम सलाम जी।
सर बेसिकली मैं हेल्थ इकोनॉमिक्स में पीएचडी कर रहा हूँ चाइना से। और मेरा जो एरिया है सर बेसिकली मैं काम कर रहा हूँ लार्ज माइक्रो डेटा पे। तो सर इस टाइप की कोई भी जर्नल हो जो आप समझते हैं सर कि वो मोस्टली रिलेटेड है माइक्रो डेटा से, जैसे कि +1 के जर्नल है, इस तरह का कोई और हो सर, और वो आप मुझे सजेस्ट कर लें ताकि मॉडल को समझने में और इस तरह के जो वेरिएबल्स होते हैं डीएचएस डेटा रिलेटेड उनको समझने में मुझे आसानी हो।
देखें, टेक्निकली तो मेरी फील्ड मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स है, लेकिन अब माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स के अंदर इंस्टीट्यूशनल थ्योरी को यूज़ करते हुए मैक्रो वेरिएबल्स को माइक्रो के साथ कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं। यानी आपका लार्ज माइक्रो मॉडल में जाके आप जीडीपी को एज अ वेरिएबल डाल लें या इंस्टीट्यूशन क्वालिटी को एज अ वेरिएबल डाल लें। मैं इसको एक्सप्लेन कर सकता हूँ, ठीक है। It is also transformation to include macro variables within formula। या तो मैंने ये एग्जांपल दिया है इस आजम की कि माइक्रो डेटा में मैक्रो वेरिएबल्स डाल सकते हैं इंस्टीट्यूशन थ्योरी के प्रोस्पेक्टिव से, या एक्सटर्नल इनेबलर थ्योरी के प्रोस्पेक्टिव से, या एक्सटर्नल इन्वायरमेंट थ्योरी के प्रोस्पेक्टिव से, कि भी फर्म में जो इंटरनल बिहेवियर्स हैं वो एक्सटर्नल इन्वायरमेंट से भी रिस्पॉन्ड करते हैं, तो वेरिएबल्स डाले जा सकते हैं। हाँ, वो वेरिएबल कंट्री वाइज चेंज होंगे, फर्म वाइज चेंज नहीं होंगे, लेकिन पैनल डेटा का एडवांटेज ये है कि अगर वो फर्म लेवल चेंज नहीं होते तो आप मल्टीपल कंट्रीज का डेटा लें तो वो फर्म लेवल चेंज ना भी हो, लेकिन वो कंट्री वाइज तो चेंज होता होगा, तो वो उसके रिजल्ट्स आएंगे। ठीक है। एनीवन एल्स? I think there is no questions. So then I should conclude today's session. Thank you very much for joining. I will share the details that are discussed here in the group, and hopefully this training will help you to strengthen your way of discussion in the methodology. In the start, you will find challenges because you need to know the theory behind that methodology also. So good teams will help you very much. Thank you. I'm going to close this meeting for today. Allah Hafiz.